Welcome to Generation Dan, everybody. And when it's sad, when your ex has red flags, I tried my best. My name's Atlas Novak. I'm your millennial. Who else is here with me?
I'm Dino the genetic marvel, and I'm just an old person who's just trying to pretend to be a human being. It's great. I don't know.
Oh my god. You okay? You all right? Yeah. So, and our guest today, it's Nerra Muhammad. Everybody, how's it going?
Yeah. It's great. How are you guys?
Awesome. This has been the weirdest day that I've ever experienced. I'll tell you that right now. There we go. Greetings, ladies and gentlemen and ladies attire. I'm wearing a Superman shirt, sir. Okay, that is the manliest of attire.
Hey, wait! You can only see my torso. You can't see that I'm wearing ladies' underwear.
I am definitely wearing a tutu underneath this, and if anything, it's liberating. So it's been a hot day, even in Canada.
I actually forgot to put underwear on, but that's neither here nor there. I was rushing.
Okay, we're a minute and a half in, and you've immediately escalated to like the hottest guest. You're like, I forgot to wear underwear. Jesus Christ! All right, well, and there that goes. All right. Next time Atlas has to forget, it's his turn. It's okay.
What do you mean I have to forget it's my turn?
Ta-da! Surprise! I'm okay. So, Nerra, so you understand, I at the beginning of the pandemic, I was the size of like livestock. I was about 500 pounds. Okay. So now I'm a very possibly sundress worthy 278 pounds. Okay. Well, I'm still 6'2" and like broad like a doorway, right? So it's a weird thing, but at the same time, I'm like, I've always heard about people who are like, oh, I didn't wear underwear, and I'm like, no underwear? What are you, crazy? And now I'm going, I might try it. I might venture. Like, I'm becoming a little bit more, adventurous, but at the same time, like, I'm probably gonna break something. Like, it's just either furniture or myself, and I'm like, I'd rather break furniture than anything else.
I don't know. Going commando never feels right. You lost so much weight that you look like a top-heavy chick with an anorexic.
I can't say that's not accurate because I still got a gut. It's people are like, "Oh, you look so good," and I'm like, "I'm still really fat," but thanks. My form great, but
the progress is what's important. I don't think it's like the ending weight. Like some more news just did a segment about like the US's obsession with weight loss and how the whole BMI scale is kind of bullshit and things like that. It's good.
Well, like for years, I described myself as USA petite, right? Because you guys are really fat, right? Like it's
USA petite.
Yeah, that's right. And that was when I was 500. Okay, when I was 500, I was USA petite. Honestly, I had to keep in mind whenever I would travel, I was like, I can't. If they lose my luggage, that's it. Like, I'm wearing what I'm wearing, and that's all we're gonna have to run with, right? Unless I went to the States, and then I was like, oh, I don't even have to bring luggage, okay? I'll just buy it and throw it away. No, it's cheap and it's gigantic, like a tarpaulin. It's fantastic. So yeah, I don't. But that's true. You guys are quite obsessed with it.
See, now I'm just thinking of you like going to a big and tall store, and then they were just like, you walk in, the guy's like, this was made for you.
Like, we were just talking about big and tall, weren't we?
We were, I think, a few days ago.
Yeah.
It's like I'm like, you know how when like little people, like there's the tall little person and they're like, he's so tall, and you're like, he's not really tall, but for a little person he is. And the same way now I walk into big and tall and they're like, what's up, hot stuff? And I'm like, that's not, I don't think that's how that works, but that's not sure.
I mean,
I'll take it.
I'm 4'11", so you said you're what, 6'5"? Is that what you said?
6'2", and I may have
6'2".
Like I don't have as much gravity in forcing itself on me now. So people are like, "Did you grow?" I'm like, maybe I did. I don't know. It's a weird time to be alive.
Weird time. I mean, at least you're not 4'11". Just count your blessings. I'm 4'11".
4'11". That's that. Can I ask you a question? In the States, so I know up here, if you're under 4 feet, you can get a handicap pass for your car.
Do you mean 5 feet?
You know,
under 5 feet.
So I just made the cutoff. Like 4'10" and under is considered a dwarf.
Oh.
So I'm not considered a dwarf by 1 inch. 1 inch. I'm very proud of that actually. I don't want a handicap sticker.
Listen, but you could park.
It's not hot.
You could park. It's not hot. Listen, I will give you that absolutely. But like, you can park anywhere.
No,
that's a
I
sweet
can't.
deal.
I did the minivan thing for like a year, and I was like, I can't. I only have 2 kids. Like, this is not hot. I can't do this anymore.
Yeah.
So no, I felt.
Yeah.
I want to go out, and plus I'm going through like the divorce thing. So like now, like I want to be able to go out and be like sexy mom. So I can't have a handicap sticker, man. I'm already struggling on the dating front.
I don't know. I mean,
here.
Technically, when applying to jobs, epilepsy counts as a disability. But like, I don't think. I feel like if I go to the DMV, be like, "Hey guys, I have epilepsy. Can I get a handicap placard?" They'd be like, "What the fuck are you even doing here? Give us your license back."
Yeah, like it would just be so bad. Don't do it. Just don't. Like my mom's ex-husband couldn't drive because of his epilepsy. He was not allowed to have a license.
And that's what it is for most people. Yeah.
Yeah.
The way mine is, where it's only during sleep, so that's why I'm able to keep mine. Because it's like if I have a seizure behind the wheel, I've already been asleep for 20 minutes.
And I'm like,
yeah.
I feel like that would be a great way. Like, if that's like people who sleepwalk can get handicap passes, because like that's your type of epilepsy. You're like, I sleepwalk, kind of. I fall down.
Yeah,
like, it's a weird thing, but at the same time,
the fact that
I just don't like.
So random weird ass story you made me think of. So my daughter and my son acted out the scene from Black Swan for me the other day, and yesterday my daughter and I were sick as shit. So we were just like both like she was like knocked out on my bed with me, and out of nowhere in the middle of her sleep, she started saying her fucking lines. But she was asleep. She was knocked out. When she said like she messed up the first time, and then she like self-corrected herself in her sleep.
That's worse.
She's 4 years old, dog. I was like, my daughter's gonna be an actress. Like, this girl is she's literally in her sleep and just like, and then like snored and didn't say anything else. I was just like, huh.
Yeah.
Okay. She's still in character in her sleep.
That's you know what? Like that would freak me out first. Like
I've had Katie do that. Like, Katie's done like the sleep talking thing, but it's usually like whatever TV show she's watching at the time, and it's usually from the intro. So lately,
she likes intros.
Like a couple of weeks ago, she's asleep, and then I hear, "Everybody loves Raymond." Just pulling off the Brad Garrett, like just completely straight. It was great.
That's
wow. Okay, so my daughter's not crazy. Okay.
No, but honestly, red flag. Just immediate red flag.
Red flag for her to be into Everybody Loves Raymond. She's Italian American.
Okay, that show was like actually kind of funny for what it was.
Yeah,
I liked it.
It is horribly funny, and at the same time, like you're just like, I hate, like it's like a pun where you hear a good pun and you're like, no, I hate that made me laugh. I hate it. I hate that it made me laugh.
It.
But
I feel that.
Yeah, it's definitely same with Everyone Loves Raymond. You're like, I hate that this is so entertaining. Like I'm Greek, so my household, I was like, oh yeah, I know mother-in-laws who are like that, absolutely, and I know daughter-in-laws who hate their mother-in-laws just like that one. I'm like, yeah, sure.
Wait, so literally, what's gonna happen? Awesome. Can't wait for that because my fiance hates my mom, which
have fun.
Yay.
You're not your mom's biggest fan either, so it's like
true.
Oh, that was such a good one. Oh, you guys play dirty.
Yeah.
Well,
I mean, he's right though, because like it's not even like my opinion of her is very low. My body, the cells within me, don't like being around her.
I know. When you told me that, I was like, damn. Did you ever tell her that?
No, God, no. I'm glad she doesn't listen to this podcast.
Like, that would be me. That would be where you're like, hey, that's a dick thing. You shouldn't. Like, that's something you should keep private from her and share it with everyone else.
Your steak, like, Mom, did you know that the cells in my body reject you?
Like ultimately,
cut your steak.
I feel like at some level, every child reacts to their mom in some way, right? Like they hear their mom. Like there's stories of like there was a fire and a little girl was on the balcony and her dad, like everyone's like, jump, 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 and she wouldn't jump, and their dad's like, don't worry, I'll catch you, and she just jumped immediately because she had that trust with her parents, right?
Yeah.
So like you're gonna react, but like when it's like the way Atlas reacts, you're like, that's not a good thing. That's
It'd be one of those things where she's like, jump, I'll catch you, but you know what? I'm taking my chances with the burning building.
I'll take my chances.
Go back
You're
inside.
like, I'm going back inside. No, not at all. No. Nick says he has MS, so anytime if you don't laugh at his jokes, you immediately are going to hell. Which I'm like, listen, I think I like the hot weather now that I'm not so fat, so I'm down.
You know, like I'm probably going there anyway. So
Yeah.
Add that to the list of reasons why.
Wow. Listen, the more and more I saw a meme and it was like, listen, if something so small as just being an asshole every once in a while is going to get you to hell, did you really want to go to heaven? And I'm like, that's a fair point, because
it's a fair point.
The dickheads who are going to be up there, they're going to just be so judgy, and you're just going to be like, oh, I'm just immediately going to start punching people in the face. Like, it's not.
If South Park is any indication, it's full of Mormons. Do we really want to hang out with a room full of Mormons?
Yeah.
Bro,
no, like it was like a meme that was like, God, y'all got any weed up here? And God was like, get out. And I was like, shit, that'd be me.
Yeah.
Get out.
Oh, absolutely. I went. So yesterday, I was at a barbecue with some friends, and we were talking, and somebody brought up kilos or keys, and me and like three other guys looked at each other, and I'm like, I don't think they're talking about what we think they're talking about. And I was like, oh, we're bad people. And they're like, we are bad people. That's fair. I'm like, I'm trying to be good now. I don't know.
Like you just watches too much Ozark.
Well, it's one of those things where you're going, listen, now I'm old and I'm a loser, right? But like there was a time I was very cool, which is weird because I was also very fat, which I was like, I was the coolest fat guy. It was great. I could just Kool-Aid man, just it was great. But now I'm just like,
I'm not gonna lie, I wasn't very cool. I don't really think I ever really had like a cool phase. I'm like a fake cool because like I'm quote unquote pretty, but I've never been cool. Like I've always been the super nerdy girl. It's like, you want to talk Harry Potter in like Harry Potter gear, like right now, like for real. Like I'm not cool. I'm not.
I think that's a green flag. Like, let's be honest. Like in this day and age, a girl who's like, I'm cool, you're like, stay away from that girl. There's nothing good that can come from this.
It's the same feeling as going in, and it's like, we have competitive wages here at this job. If you had to say it, you didn't.
Yeah.
Show don't tell.
Well, come on. That's like people who are like, you just trust me, and you're like, absolutely not. I'm definitely not.
Nerd is the new cool. To an extent, there's a critical mass of nerdiness before it gets like really annoying for people.
There's nerdy, like I enjoy every so often I will book a day and I will watch all of the Lord of the Rings movies, right?
I love those movies.
Of course. So, but then there's the other kind of nerdy, which is to my left over here, where it's like, I have a trading card game that I play, and you're going, well,
okay, yeah, that is we're not gonna lie, that's a step up of nerd. That's a step up. It's a step
that's
up.
Like he gets like a robe, maybe a sash that he has to wear around. Like he's that kind of he's a special.
Here's the problem with like being into trading card games. It's something you have to do in public versus other nerdy things. You can do that in the privacy of your own home. D&D in the fucking basement. Watching Star Trek TNG, you can do that in your living room. I have to go to local tournaments with other people.
Yeah.
And it's just out there.
And it's better if you get friends and stuff like that.
Yeah.
I've carved Lord of the Rings Gandalf stuff.
Listen, fuck yeah, you have. That's
pretty cool.
Pretty dope.
So I have a functional Gandalf pipe. It's like this long. And I'm like, it came, like it's got a certificate of authenticity and everything. And I'm like, oh man, I need to buy pipe tobacco or something, or just start smoking weed in it because it's so
you have to.
It's this long. And I'm like,
I mean, after you're gonna smoke, I'm gonna lead you to the weeds, the green side.
Well, that's I quit smoking during the pandemic. Another reason why I'm a loser now, and I miss it so much. But at the same time, it's not like Oh, but smoking Gandalf's pipe, that's gotta be better for you in some side. Like the universe goes like, yes, it's tobacco, but it's Gandalf's pipe. It's a wash, you know.
I think
You get
the better for you part is the not having tar. Because if you're just
Yeah.
putting tobacco leaves in the pipe, it's better for you than Lucky Strikes or whatever. Because it turns out toasted is toasting your lungs. That's
Oh,
like real cigarette.
Toast.
that makes me feel so much better. I just bought this like super girly like little pipe thing, and I can like stick my. It's like a cigarette. I wanted like the old school like Cruella de Vil cigarette thing. Not
Oh,
for
the
cigarettes,
long
'cause I don't
one,
smoke
one
cigarettes.
of these.
hmm
Yeah.
But then I found this other like super girly one that had like jewels hanging from it. It was like bedazzled, and I just like stick my little your roll up or whatever inside of it, and ta-da!
Nice.
Cool. I
There's
feel pretty.
I feel there's a certain I laugh when people are like, oh, smoking's for losers and stuff, and you're going, have you seen people smoke? Super cool looking, okay?
Yeah,
You're like
for real.
human dragon, just blowing smoke.
Like,
Don't lie.
I mean,
like,
take out the smoking from like Grease the movie and how like uncool they'll look if they like
super
threw it
weird.
out there. Super fucking lame, dog.
Yeah. That's
like,
and that's
you gotta smoke.
well, that's the thing is you're like, you can't. So okay, everyone's
We're
seen
so bad.
those guys. It's like the Japanese guys who have their like hair coiffed like the people in Greece, and like they wear leather jackets, and you're like, not cool. You're everything but the smoke. You're like, absolutely not, right?
Everything.
And then you see people smoking, and you're like, see, leather jacket and a cigarette. That's pretty cool now, right?
It's such a fucked up thing, but I feel that.
Super. Well, that's the weird part, right? Because every time I remember, like I used to smoke Davidoff cigarettes, which are like, it's instead of being a light cigarette, it's a milder tobacco. So when you smoke it, it smells more aromatic, and it's not as it doesn't stick to your clothes as much, and all that kind of stuff. So when I would smoke that, people were like, oh, that's not that bad. And I'm like, I'm very fancy. And like,
I am superior. You gotta know.
so like I'm fatter, I smoke better. It's all these things. It's fine. And then I'm a loser.
So now I'm wondering.
I do enjoy a nice cigar with a nice brandy here and there.
God.
Cognac.
Well, that's nothing wrong with that. You were saying, Atlas?
Like when you see like an ad, what's like a red flag for you?
An ad?
Yeah, in an ad, what makes you go, I don't think this is good?
I'll tell you what I saw recently was there was an ad for flour, and I was like, no, you can't. Like the idea that there are advertisers now for sugar, which I'm like, sugar is like fat people cocaine. You don't need an ad. You just gotta tell them where to get it. Be like, hey, it's everywhere and everything. Best of luck, fatso.
It's the same thing with Starbucks. Like your Starbucks, you don't need a commercial. You don't need to.
No.
I
totally agree.
Like
I hated those McDonald's commercials too. I used to always hate those McDonald's commercials. I don't know why they bothered me, but they just did. And I wondered if they were different in like different geographic areas, because in Baltimore it was always black people, and I was like, do only black people eat at McDonald's? I always wondered that. But I was like, is it just because they have certain like commercials depending upon your geographic location to like draw people in?
Listen, McDonald's commercials in Canada sucked for the longest time. Okay. And like a lot of stuff in Canada sucks. Let's be honest. The only real thing that we can lord over America is like healthcare, which is great.
In the UK, we get 4 adverts every 15 minutes. I mean, that's kind of the same on TV. It's more of like YouTube or whatever, or like just.
But the adverts,
those game ads.
Oh, I hate those damn things. But look, in the UK, some of the ads are so ridiculous that you're just like, it's so good. It's better than the show I'm watching. It's but that's. I feel like they need to okay. What is one of the new game commercials, like the betting commercials, has Jamie Foxx in it? I'm like, listen, friend, Jamie Foxx is not gambling on an app. Okay, number one, he can go into any casino in the whole world and go, I want a table to myself, and they go, yes, sir. and that's
You're-
just what
Yes, sir.
happened.
You're
Really
Jamie
good.
Foxx, please, right this way. Yeah.
Like he's not.
Yeah.
'cause that's not his name, but still, he's Jamie Foxx, right? So it's like,
They're like, I paid my rent from playing this game for 3 hours, and you're like,
No, you didn't.
I've also
Yeah.
lost
You're
everything
lying.
I own last week, so who
Yeah.
knows? You're like, that's not gonna work, right? It's just-
On all the what's it called, Cool Zone Media podcasts, so like Daily Zeitgeist, Behind the Bastards, all them. They have this casino called Chumba that advertises with them, and there's like the jingle is, instead of being at the middle or at the beginning, is in the middle of the commercial, and it's always, I think, on the 15-second mark, because you have the 15-second forward skip. So like you start hearing the beginning of the commercial, you're like, well, I gotta skip this. You go click chumba. Fuck! Like,
I have a question for both of you.
yeah.
If a commercial comes on YouTube and does not have the skip option, so you have to wait the full 15 seconds.
Yeah.
For me, I'm like, I will never buy that product. Like,
Exactly,
immediately, it has been shunned and should be stoned and just burned at the stake. Like,
Yeah.
just absolutely not. Right? That's normal, right? I think that's normal.
Definitely.
no, that's totally normal. Totally normal.
Okay, yeah.
I pay extra to Hulu because I didn't want ads.
Yeah,
That's how
same.
bad it is. Like I tried it out being cheap, and I was like, oh fuck that. Like
Yeah.
literally the same day, I was like, fuck that, and I
Yeah.
got rid of them.
Oh, absolutely.
Nope.
Listen, the idea, like they started throwing that around up here about Netflix, like you can get the cheaper Netflix and you have commercials, and I was like,
Yeah.
I already have so many issues with Netflix right now.
Granted, but I was like, oh my god, those poor people, they don't get Netflix without commercials. Like, that's so sad. Like, and then I was like, fucking do better in life, losers. That's horrible.
Like this is what sets you apart from being a man and a boy. Do you have ad free? Guys, this guy asked me, this pissed me off too. Huge red flag. This guy asked me to come over. I love football. I told you, Atlas. Like, I'm like horrible with it. Like, I love American football. This guy was like, come over. I want you to watch the game with me. I'm like, sure. I get there and he's watching the game on his phone.
No. Turn the fuck around and walk out.
Like, that's a hard red flag.
Yeah, it's different if it's
we never spoke again after that day.
Yeah, no. And okay, all right, here's a question. Has he reached out to talk?
No,
Okay.
no, we have not reached out to one another. It was just, I mean, we like hung out for a little bit, and he was like, "Oh, I know you like crime shows." So I put the crime shows on the TV, and it's like, why would you invite me over to watch a football game and you only have it on your phone?
That's an odd one, right? Like,
I don't want to pay for NFL Sunday ticket or whatever the fuck it's.
Which, by the way, I had.
See, okay, there's a hard. So I've always been.
I'm gonna do Fubo TV this year, though.
Well, listen, that's fair, but like, there's a unique way to interact with a woman that enjoys sports to that degree, though, right? Like, that's not like most, and I'm realizing this now, is that most men cannot operate at that level. Like, so I can only imagine how, like, your entire perspective of this person just immediately changed. He's like, oh, I'm watching on my phone. You're like,
and he was a Cowboys fan. I'm just like, it can't get, like, it keeps getting worse. Like,
even I know that's bad, and I oh my god.
Like, you guys are stuck in the 90s. Let it go.
Oh, come on. Yeah, no, that's see, this is
God.
I'm not a huge, like, I look like most American football fans because I'm the size of a circle, or he's just a right. But now I don't think I'm like, because I'm not like, I like watching sports live. I find that exciting because, like, I went to a Bills game for a buddy. He's our Sporto friend. Yeah, he's our Sporto friend. So we went to Buffalo. Well, we went to Niagara Falls for, strippers. And then we were like, we'll cross the border and we'll watch a Bulls football game. That's what we're doing.
You were starting to drift into Russian accent there.
Texans fan.
We will watch Bulls and
We will watch the Bulls. They will attack. But that's when
there
you
you go.
see,
Yeah, live football games are everything. Like I go at least once a season.
well, you're on the
Amazing.
field battle. You know, like that is definitely. I could like the way that they describe it as like the line of scrimmage. You're like, oh yeah, this is pretend violence. 100%. The difference
All the way.
you have a little bit of protection, like not from concussions, but from like getting stabbed in the face and stuff like that. So,
it's the closest you get to gladiatorial.
It really is.
so far, but 2024, I'm sure it's coming back, people.
Oh my god. Yeah.
Even though I think boxing is like a pretty brutal. Like I'm from Baltimore, Maryland, so like boxing is like a big deal, especially with this guy Tank or whatever.
Yeah.
So I like having to sit through those fights, and I've been to a UFC fight. That was crazy. Blood was everywhere. I was like, whoa! Like I covered my eyes so many times. Like I was such a girl at that. It was fun, but it's crazy because like I mean it's like legitimate blood everywhere. Like I'm like, are they not going to kill each other?
Yeah.
It was insane.
Listen, I remember with my so I have had 3 brothers, and we watched the first 2 UFCs, and the funny thing is we had other people came over and they were like, yeah, I'll watch it with you. Yeah, it's cool, man. And we were like, awesome, yeah. So we sat down and the 4 of us. So I understand, like, so there are 2 younger and 2 older brothers. So it's 4 of us, which we would just like team up, and that was 2 tag teams. So our entire childhood was just beating the crap out of each other. So we were,
Sounds actually pretty fun.
yeah, well, like my mom hated it. She's like, who's been fighting here? Because we would pop the nails out of the drywall because we would just throw each other into the wall. And we were all big. Like I'm the biggest, but still, nobody was small because we were real men. And no, like I wasn't. I was just big. They were machinists, so they're like, whereas I was just like, I'm just fat and huge, you know. So, but yeah, so we were watching, and it was brutal, and we were like, wow, that's pretty rough.
It's so brutal.
But the guys, because remember, the first 2 were like no rules. Like it was whatever's gonna happen, happen. Like it was brutal. And the guys that we invited to watch who were like, yeah, I'll watch. That's cool, man. It's like boxing, more hardcore. They watched and they were like, oh my God. Oh, and they're like, are you okay? Like, do you need a bucket? And they're like, I might throw up. And I'm like, just leave. Just leave. You can't.
I understand. I couldn't believe I went on a date too. It was insane. I was just like, why am I here?
It's like that's live. I don't know that I could handle that.
I went live.
Like,
yeah.
I've gotten into fights where I've bloodied people, but to watch it, like I'd have a hard time with boxing, I think, even. So I could only imagine.
Same.
That was because boxing is very much a sport of skill, right? Because you may not be able to beat someone's ass, but you can outbox them, right? Like that was Floyd Mayweather versus the Filipino guy. Like the Filipino guy wanted to kick his ass.
Oh, what was his name? Oh gosh,
Manny
Pacquiao. Pacquiao.
Pacquiao came in there wanting to beat his ass, which I'm like, oh, absolutely. Floyd Mayweather can't read. I would definitely want to beat his ass, right?
Oh my gosh, like what the who was this? I think 50 Cent was just fucking with him again about it. He's like, if you read a page of Harry Potter, he was like, if you read a page from Harry Potter, I will pay like $750,000, like your favorite charity, and he didn't do it.
Listen,
I would have done it. I mean, is it that same rumor that like Leah Michelle from Glee can't read? Like that's the whole meme with
she's
her.
Also a horrible.
I don't know. I hear bad stuff about Beyonce too. They said Beyonce has like speaks really like it's very hard. I'm such a Beyonce fan, so I get so offended when people say it. But I've heard from like a lot of reputable people because I'm in the radio industry. People like she doesn't do interviews because she's really bad at speaking. I was like, what?
I feel bad for her, but like at the same time, there has to be something, right? Like, look, she's tall, she's beautiful, she's wealthy, she's extremely talented.
Yeah, you're right.
Not being able to read, that seems par for the course. Like it's either that or she's Amber Turd and craps the bed every couple days, which you're like, that's worse. I'd rather her not be able to read than that's so much worse.
I mean, they said she could read. They said her dialect is just like really.
Can you imagine?
Which is why she never like speaks.
Well, could she like
You
she
know,
sings
Beyonce
beautifully,
doesn't.
but when you talk to her, she's like, "Hey, what's up?" And you're like, "What the hell?" Like,
And I'd be
Yeah.
like, yeah, they said it was really bad. Like, and I mean, like people that have been interviewing like Barack Obama, that have interviewed like big names. I don't want to put this person out there, but like big names have been like, she was horrible. I was like, really? That hurts my soul. I'm like a Virgo. I'm like too like, if she's a Virgo, and I'm like, what? No. So whatever.
It could always be worse, right? So Mick says bare knuckle boxing is
I
becoming.
mean, we all have our strong and our weak points,
worse. Well, that's the thing is like, it's what is acceptable as a human weakness, right? Like me, I do not like when someone crosses the line where you've gone from just being unaware or uneducated to you're just an incompetent person. Like I don't pull any punches. I'm like, oh, you're too dumb to function. Like I can't. I'm like, how have you not walked into traffic? Right? Like, and that makes me a bad person, right? But at the same time, am I wrong? No.
But then I don't think it does make you a bad person, because I feel like you like as an adult, like you should know certain things. You know what I mean? Like, or take this time to learn certain things. I think that we're in an age where like information is so readily available, like you can't not know something now. Like you can pick up your smartphone, any damn phone, anything, and you can find out whatever you want to find out in the world. Like,
yeah,
ignorance is bliss. Like I hate that saying, like ignorance is bliss. Like, no, it's not. Maybe it's because I'm a neurotic Virgo, but for me, not knowing is worse than knowing. Like,
all right, Nerra, you mentioned Virgo twice in the last 5 minutes. That's a red flag.
It's a red flag. I'm sorry.
The astrology
we're like a gang. It's like a gang.
It definitely like when I was dating before I met Katie, like astrology stuff really made me go, ooh, like yeah. It's okay to mention it every once in a while, but there was some. I think my rule in general was 3 times. If they said it 3 times in a date, out.
Well,
I'm not calling them.
Like, I have never brought it up on a date.
Well, there you go.
Yeah.
But we brought Beyonce. Sorry.
No, but like,
Beyonce.
I feel like Beyonce. That's reasonable. But like the idea that people use it to see, someone says, "Well, that is explains how I act." I'm like, okay, but when they go, "Well, that's because you're a da 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 da," and I'm like, no, that's don't put your weirdness on me. You can embrace the weirdness. You can be like, I am such a this or XYZ.
Yeah, like I'm definitely not one of those people that's like, oh, like, I feel like you can take what resonates and leave with whatever doesn't.
Yeah.
But you can't be like every Pisces is emotional. You know what I mean? It's like,
well, they are.
I don't know. Look at it goes. Maybe
some things are just true. Listen, I'm a Leo.
Something
that explains a lot, and I'm
okay. That explains a whole lot.
It hurts, but I'm like, okay, yeah, it does explain.
And I've never met a Capricorn that's not a workaholic. Personally, every last one that I met, like loves to work. And I'm like, why do y'all work so much?
That's a red flag, though.
Loving to work.
Flag.
Definitely.
It's a huge red. It's a big red flag.
Yeah, this is why, like, whenever I meet people at parties or whatever, I don't ask what do you do anymore. I ask what do you like to do, and here's the thing: 9 times out of 10, it like cracks their brain a little bit, where they're like, "What do I like to do?"
If you really want to ruin someone's day, be like, "Oh, tell me about yourself." Or oh,
like what?
Like tell me who you are, and they go, what? And you're like,
yeah.
Well, I can send you. I have a bio right here on my phone. Let me just go ahead and send that to you real quick.
For real, no,
but this bio out all the time.
But it's just like for
on my website.
Well, yeah, that's
for the millennials and the Zoomers out there. Like, you can't do the stay at the same job till you retire anymore. So saying what you do kind of doesn't matter for the most part. Because
right? Like,
yeah,
it's true. It's more. I think that for me, that question as a woman is more like, do you have any money? That's like the women's way of asking, are you broke?
Yeah. See,
where do you work? Is really, are you broke? in women's language.
I'm more of the opinion that in this day and age, now it's not so much about the money, it's more so about the do you have a real job? Because that means you can interact with people regularly, not get fired, follow the minimalist amount of rules that will keep you as a competent component of an industry, right? Like there are a few specific things, like when people are like, not okay, I don't want this to come across as offensive to other people, but like when someone's like, oh, I just DoorDash or Uber and everything, you're kind of going, that's not really a job. Like it can provide you income, but you're not like you're definitely, you have some interaction issues, which can be fun, and but at the same time, you're like, you're a bit of an ass,
or you're between jobs or whatever. Like,
it's your supplemental income.
Yeah, which we shouldn't have to do most of the time, but we do. So
that is the worst development now, though, where people are like, oh, I have 4 jobs. You're like, are you saving for something? They're like, no, I just can't find full-time work, so I have to do 4 jobs. And I'm like, that's a horrible situation to be in, right?
Yeah.
Like,
absolutely horrible. You're lacking in the benefits. I mean, the comfortability. Sure. I mean, gosh, there's so many issues with that. Like if you get laid off, it's like, or you get hurt. Say you get hurt, and like it's a serious injury, and you can't work. Now, like those part-time jobs are not gonna support you.
Absolutely. So, well, that's the whole idea, right? Like, I've always found it interesting when people look down on other people for it's like when they work like in a trade or something like that. And I'm like, so to explain why I have a dryer behind to the people watching was that today or tomorrow they're breaking ground to fix a pipe underneath our foundation. So I had to clean out our entire laundry room, which is a long freezer, washer, dryer, and I'm like, I had to detach stuff, and like I cut my finger. It's actually like quite a bad cut, and I was like, at the same time, I'm like, I figured it out to plug which stuff, and I got a special thing. I went to Home Depot too. Very manly stuff, and like I'm pretty sure my wife had a boner for half the time when she was like, "Oh, you're such a man," and I'm like,
"Look at him carrying that stuff."
Oh, wow. So this is the funny thing is like I'm used to make the joke where there's no one in my household that I can't wear as a backpack because they're Asian and I'm livestock. I'm the size of a walking manatee. So now, like I grabbed the washer and dryer and I like just walked it over and she's like, "Oh my god!" And then the freezer's full and I just lift up half of it and she's like, "Oh!" And I'm like, "I'm still."
I've done that a couple of times. Like maybe not washer dryer.
Marriage.
Yeah. Well, now you have an automatic in where you just go like, maybe she's not so much in the movie. Like, babe, come here. You go downstairs. You just pick up the washer, put it back down.
Yeah. Well, listen. That's the best part is that
put a fan on.
Yeah, exactly. Like I just grab big things. Like it's one of those things where like when I'm my biggest, there were times like I would go to comedy clubs and there would be like too many people and I would just like, so I would never do this to a woman because that's gonna get you charged, but I'll like put my hands under a man's armpits and just pick him up and just move him out of the way. And he's like, "What's happening?" And I'm like, "Shh, it's okay, baby, don't worry." And I just move him aside. And then I'll give him a little pet on the head. I'm like, "It's okay, don't worry." And they're just like, "You're the worst." I did it to like men, like, because this is the thing is when you're 500 pounds, like you could do it to whoever you want. It's not like you can only do it. You can't do it to other fat people, but like anyone who's thin, you're like, "Oh yeah, it's no problem." So they get freaked out by that, and they're like, "Yeah, I'm a man," and I'm like, "But I'm a real man." So
you're a fucking Viking. Like, I don't know.
I just think you have SpongeBob with the razor. I am a man.
Yeah, well, in this day, it's so weird because like I went to Home Depot and like there's a distinct difference between men who are doing something for work and then men who are like, "I'll do it myself because it's my house," and you're just seeing them figure out and like everything they touch they complain about and they're like, "Why is this so expensive? Last time I was here when my uncle showed me this in 1997 it was half the price." And you're just like, I know exactly where
Well,
you're coming from. I'm like, my dad is right. My dad passed away, and he's like, I am proud of you, young man. You are doing it yourself. Don't let them charge you. You do it yourself. Okay?
there are two subsets of the I'll do it myself guy. There's the I just do everything on the house because my house and I know how to do it.
Yeah.
Then there's the I googled it one time and I'm gonna do it because the guy quoted me too much.
Oh,
And they're always pissed off the entire time they're there. That's the red flag for like this guy is going to burst a pipe or like give himself a black eye or something.
Honestly, I was worried that I was going to burst a pipe, but it's like, so I went and got a bunch of fittings to do everything, and I'm like, great. And then I did it, and it was still leaking, and I was like, I forgot Teflon tape, and I'm like, okay. And my wife's like, what's Teflon tape? I'm like, that's okay, it's a man thing, it's fine. And so we had to go back to Home Depot, and then I was like, hey, so I talked to the same guy, I'm like, is there a shutoff that I could do? He goes, that might work too. So we found that too. And it worked perfectly. And Victoria's like, wow. And I'm like, I'm so getting action later. It's great.
Yeah.
No, but it's like, that's the thing is like, that's the stuff that like I grew up in a machine shop. I'm like, we had to figure stuff out. And back then there was no such thing as Google. It was you learn because you ask questions and don't be a pain in the ass. You got to be nice with the asking questions. Otherwise people will tell you the wrong thing. And then it gets really funny. But yeah. Uh-oh. Where'd she go?
I don't know where she went.
Oh.
I hope something didn't happen.
Hopefully
Yeah.
okay.
Keep it going.
Nick was saying that bare knuckle boxing is becoming huge here. Honestly, I'm kind of jealous, Mick, because I love the idea of that because I have like giant Mickey Mouse fists now, and now they're all bumped. Like I have a new. Okay, so if you can see this, there's a divot in my knuckle right here.
Yeah.
Which I'm like, that's a new thing, and I'm
your body quits storing fat in your knuckles.
In my knuckles, my knuckles are no longer storing fat. It's a weird. I have little like indents in my hands now. It's very. I call them finger sticks. It's very peculiar.
Finger sticks. You know, it was funny when you said this is why I have a dryer behind, but you didn't say me. So dryer behind made it sound like your butt was dry. The reason I have a dry butt is like, and then you started talking about like doing the stuff. I was like, oh. Okay, that makes sense.
He's back. There we go.
Hey,
Nerra, you okay?
Sorry. Yeah, my internet just like stopped working.
Oh, that's the worst. Yeah.
Technology is both the best and worst thing that has ever happened in the universe.
Yeah. Well, you guys know I just moved, so like I have my internet set up. Spectrum said we could come pick up the kit. We go to pick up the kit, and they're like, "Oh, we don't have any more. Come back tomorrow." So I'm using Atlas. I'm like using our work.
Yeah, our work. So the program we teach for gives you like a little internet modem because sometimes you have to use the internet when you're teaching.
Of course.
Now I'm using my phone hotspot because it says searching. I don't know why it just says searching. So whatever.
But
this is the weird thing about this whole idea is that like so. I don't know if you guys have ever experienced this. What like in this day and age where you can talk through Instagram or through Facebook Messenger or something like that, asking someone for their number, like their phone number, and they're like, I don't have a phone number. And you're like,
yes, you do. Yeah.
Why don't you have a phone number? And then they're like, okay, it's this. And I'm like, okay. So I text the phone number and it doesn't go through. And I'm like, why isn't it going through? And they're like, I don't have any time on my phone. And I'm like, oh, okay.
I was saying, it sounds to me like their phone is off and they're talking to you through Wi-Fi. That's why they're using the Instagram.
Well, and I'm just like, I'm old, so I'm like, I don't think that that's a new thing. I just think that's a poor thing, or like, I don't want to have to pay for it. I'm like, okay, like I get it, but at the same time, I'm kind of going, why are you a nomad of Wi-Fi? Like that's a weird. It's just going from Wi-Fi to Wi-Fi. That
was another red flag for a guy I was talking to. He only we never talked on the phone. He had an iPhone, but the text messages would come through green, which I was like, oh, that means he doesn't have service.
Really?
Yeah.
Wait, is that why there's the stigma with the green bubbles?
I think it might be like now that I finally switched over to iPhone because he had an iPhone, but like. He was only texting me through like Wi-Fi. I was like, this is so weird. He's like, oh, like my phone's messed up right now. But like when we went out to eat, his phone looked perfectly fine.
See, honestly,
So yeah, I stopped talking to him too.
Yeah, well,
for
listen,
that.
I'm not envious of anyone who's back in the market for love,
It
because
sucks.
like,
Horrible.
well, it's I feel like, especially I know the idea of like, as you get older, the pool of people that are worth interacting with gets smaller and smaller, and that's, I think, anywhere in any way, shape, or form, whether it's employment or whatever, like it's on constantly, but like the amount of people who are just undateable that are out there are so prevalent, and they're like, no, you should date me, and you're like, absolutely not. They're like, no, I'm a great catch. You're like, number one, you calling yourself a great catch yet still trying to get caught, red flag, just hard red flag. Absolutely not, right? Like,
I like agree and disagree with that, because I think in some cases you just like keep meeting like shitty people, but then I kind of agree, like if you're constantly saying like I'm a great catch, and it's like, oh, are you though? Because I can think of a few things that I've seen myself that you could work on.
It's like people who say like, I know what I'm doing. They don't know what they're doing.
No,
Yeah. If you, like I said, if you have to say you know what you're doing, if you have to say we're a family, if you have to say show, go, tell.
Well, like people are like, well, I'm in charge, and you're like,
nope.
Are you though?
I need to make that clip for you, Dino, of the guy from I Think You Should Leave. You sure about that? You sure about that?
I love that same guy. So he does a show that's on Netflix, and I haven't watched it because I am assuming I will want to kill myself if I watch it, right? Because
yes, Katie and I watched a few episodes of it. Yeah. It's a huge bummer. Yeah.
So, but there's a clip where he's in the middle of traffic, and some guy's like, "What the hell's your problem? You don't know how to drive?" And he's like, "No, this is terrifying." And I'm like, I feel like that's a better answer than a lot of people, because like I'm trying to make a joke out of this era where I say like, I don't want to work, but at the same time I want to become like the person at the DMV that evaluates your test. Just, I'm not going to give licenses to people. I'm not. Anyone, if you are in the car, you're not getting your license. That's just not going to happen, because there are too many people driving in general, and there's a plethora of people who should never drive in their life, right? Like, it's just, they are mostly people who are under 5 feet. You should not. Sorry, I'm just joking.
Like, I'm an excellent driver. My friends, I'm like Phil. I'm the designated drunk driver. Okay, I'm Phil.
That's, you know what? I was that for a lot of years, but I'm like, that's because half of my torso is liver. It's not like, it's technically, it's like, yeah. I remember, where was it? I was in college, and there were two guys that I was hanging out with that were like, I knew them from before, but they were both like 7 or 8 years older than I was. So they were like going back to college. I'm like, whatever. And we went out drinking, and we must have had like 12 pitchers of beer, and like we're just constantly just kept on drinking. And I was like 20, and as we're leaving the bar, they had a breathalyzer. You put in a quarter and you take the breathalyzer, and they like provided like straws. And back in the day when they would just hand out straws to anyone, it was great. It was a great time to be alive. So they both blow on it, and they both are like way over the limit. It was like the late 90s, early 2000s. Like, it was the Thunderdome of life, right? So I blow, and so the legal limit is 0.08, and I was 0.004, and they're like, that's impossible. And I'm like, I got a lot of blood. Have a good night, guys.
Wow.
And they were like, that is not safe. And I'm like, probably not, but the law is the law. Have a great night. It was great. It's and then I learned that there were 2 charges. Never got caught, but there's over the limit and then impaired driving. I was like, oh yeah, it was a fun drive home, but what can you do? That's my own.
I think
red
I'm just
flag.
normally like the one person that doesn't overdrink like everyone else. Okay, but like, I'm gonna stop. Everyone else is like, no, keep going.
You can get drunk off like a thimble full of booze, right? Like you could just like, oh, that's it, I'm done.
Oh, hey, so can I.
You know, yeah, it depends. It depends on what I ate that day, to be honest. It really does depend. Like if I have a nice steak and some potatoes, I can go a little harder than like on an empty stomach. It always depends. Like sometimes like one glass would do me over. Another time I'm like, damn, I just drank a whole bottle of champagne. I'm going in for number 2.
I mean,
it all depends on what I ate that day.
That's fair.
In my case, it's because my medication is also a blood thinner. So like, you know, one drink and I'm already starting to flush up and get a little slurry. Lightweights, us Brits can drink. Look, if I didn't have to take a medication for it, I don't know, because I've never drank without having my condition, so I'll never really know. I'm currently switching from one medication to another, and so far as I can tell, I don't think it's a blood thinner. So maybe something changes.
Sounds like shots on me.
Well, you're coming to California at the very least in January. So,
listen, I'm doing my best here. I'm just because I've never been to California. I've never been further than Vegas.
Okay.
I did that for my Dirty 30, which was interesting. Vegas is a weird place. And like there was an old couple on the plane and they're like, we're going for 2 weeks. And I was like, oh, cool.
What are you doing for 2 weeks in Vegas?
2 weeks in Vegas?
I assumed that they were perverts and they were just going to do dirty things. You know, because
I mean, seriously, they didn't say like, oh, I'm going to Bali for 2 weeks. I could be like, okay, I can get it.
Like, of course, right?
Yes.
Or I'm going to Mexico for 2 weeks, like you did.
Sure.
You could do that. You could totally do that.
Well, because look, you got it. You're going to get burned the first day. You need 3 days to heal. Then you're going to get a good tan. By the time you come back, you're going to look perfect, right? You need 2 weeks to just.
I did have a beautiful tan coming home from Mexico. Gosh, I was glowing. I need to go back.
Listen,
that's legit.
Honestly, I went in February with a friend, and we were in just a regular city. It wasn't a resort or anything because he's from Mexico. So it was Leon. So we went, and it's just like a city where people work, like just a city.
Yeah, I went to Tulum and stayed in an Airbnb. I didn't stay at a resort either.
Yeah, so we got an Airbnb and we just had tacos for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, and they were just so good. I'm like, oh, it was so good, and I'm like, I love the fact that nobody really cared. They're like, oh, you're not Mexican, all right.
They just want to give you tequila. That's it. It's like, golly, like, gosh, the water costs more than tequila. What the? That's the best part is we grabbed road beers while we were driving, and I'm like, yeah, it's so good. Oh,
like,
yeah.
oh, I gotta get road beers. I'm like, Mexico.
And the beers are super cheap in Mexico too. Super cheap.
Oh yeah. Well, everything was cheap, and I'm like, the most expensive thing, the Airbnb. I'm like, we got hosed. It was like $700 for I think 7 or 9 days, and I'm like, I think we got screwed. But
no, you did not. We paid so much more. My sisters and I were only there for 3 nights, and we each paid $250 a piece.
Jesus Christ, that's all. Oh, granted,
our Airbnb was really nice, but dang, that was expensive.
See, like the way I was thinking about it was this, because like the way
3 nights
they set things up was that it was like everything has security, right? So there was like a development where you had to go through security, and then you got into this neighborhood. And I'm like, so we had security, it was great, but I'm like, at the same time, at that time I was 320 pounds, and I'm like, what are they gonna do? Steal me? And he's like, 12 Mexicans might steal you. I was like,
oh my God.
I was like, I kind of want to see it because I think it'd be funny, but at the same time, like, you know, then they were like, oh, that guy's got an automatic weapon. I'm like, okay, it's not the funny anymore. I'm not. That's dangerous.
Yeah, me buying stuff in Mexico was pretty. I was living pretty dangerous.
Well, listen,
across the busy road to get to it. I was like, I don't know if he's gonna kidnap me. He was like, just meet me by this sign. I was like, all right.
Well, that's the problem. You're small enough that people could just put you in their pocket and run away, and you're like, I'm in the pocket.
He could have thrown me on the back of his bike, but he didn't.
Listen,
he gave me the product and kept going.
If I jump on the back of the bike, that bike stops moving. You're like, oh well, that's just. It's now parked. It's part of the, you know.
You're a mess.
No, but that's why I'm like, I'm excited to go to LA. My wife went to LA for work a couple years ago, I think before the pandemic, and she was like, "It's a weird place."
It
And
is.
Atlas has confirmed that Los Angeles is a weird place, and I'm like, I'm a weirdo because I'm not a person anymore. I'm just like a character that. And I'm like, oh, sure, why not?
Nerra, I have a question. Whenever someone refers to California as Cali, do you consider that a red flag?
So now I do, because I've learned that true Californians don't call it Cali.
Yeah.
That's what like my old coworker told me. Like before I moved here, she was like from here. She's like, we don't say Cali. I was like, okay.
Yeah. You say which part? You say NorCal or SoCal?
Mm-hmm.
That's
Basically.
yeah.
Yeah.
I feel like
you, Angelino.
all of those things are red flags. Someone's like, I'm from NorCal, and I'm like, red flag. SoCal. Well, like, I'm from Cali. 2 red flags.
Yeah, exactly. No, but like, okay, so the thing is, like, NorCal and SoCal have 2 distinct, not cultures, but just ways of looking at the world. Yeah.
Sure.
They
It's
feel
really
like
different.
2 different states, both in like ecology and culture and things like that. Because
SoCal thinks of snow as some sort of thing of the imagination.
the devil.
And NorCal is like, there's a whole world of stuff. You know?
Yeah.
We live off the grid, right? Like that's my perception of you guys.
A whole new world where it dips below 70 degrees.
Right. So like back in the day, we would drive to Florida for our summertime vacation, and we'd go for like 2 weeks. And this is like late 80s, early 90s, around then, right? And the amount of times we would be asked, like, so do you guys like live in igloos and stuff? And you're like, yeah, we do. We definitely do.
Yeah,
we definitely live in.
We do.
Absolutely.
Totally.
And then was like, I heard you guys can't spit on the ground. I'm like, nope, there's a ticket for that. You can go to jail. And like immediately, somebody who says that, we're like, yep, that's 100%. They're like, you guys can't litter. I'm like, they'll light you on fire just immediately, just burn you at the stake for it, you know?
Fun fact, a lot of the like anti-spitting laws mostly came into effect during the 1918 flu, because it was like an effort to prevent spreading. So like a lot of cities did that, and I think they repealed them over time, but I guess Canada just kept them for whatever reason.
I mean, can I just say, it is really gross to see people just spit. I hate it.
Yeah.
I don't
Sometimes
like
get a hockalooty though.
Listen,
it's disgusting.
It's absolutely disgusting. However, it's called a close quarter defense. You have to learn to spit properly because it's beneficial. I'll tell you this. I learned this having 3 brothers because I was the youngest. And before I became a land monster, I was the smallest. So sometimes, they would pin you down and then you're like, you're getting the loogie right in the face. And you gotta quick move. But then you also have to be able to go, oh, you spit on me. I will spit it back in your face. Yeah. Listen, I can get distance and accuracy.
Yeah. No, you definitely did. It's like those lizards that like.
Absolutely.
Guys, no, that's the one thing. It would go from playing to mom is gonna have to pull me off of you because you spit on me. That's the level of disgust that I would be.
Oh, you have no idea because there's a time where my one brother passed away recently, and he was only 2 years older than me, so he was not just like my best friend, he was also my tormentor growing up, right? So there was a time in our lives where he would spit at me and I'd have to dodge it, but he would get me more often than not. So once we were on a cruise, and this is just so you know, Nerra, this is a horrible, disgusting story, but I am so proud of it because I put an end to that shit. So we're standing there, like the cruise ship is just taking off. We're all the way at the front of the ship, and we're like, the wind is in our hair. We're like 9 years old. Okay. He's like, wow, this is awesome. And I had like been like saving my spit. And then he's like, this is amazing. And I just went, oh yeah. And just like, pop, like his whole side of his face. And then I ran. And I'm like, at that time I couldn't run because I was like a little butterball, but he was in so much shock because like it was like half his face. And I was just like, from that day forward, no more spitting on Dino. Dino had won the fight. And he was victorious. It was great.
Well, I'm proud of you. I'm proud that you put it into it. You put it into it.
That was the whole thing. Like I had to be victorious, otherwise I was gonna be that brother that got spit on. And I'm like, that's not a good life. That's a hard That's like, yeah, definitely.
See, that's kind of what happens. Your older siblings torment you until you finally make them regret it. Like my sister used to like pin me down and tickle me, and then one time she was tickling me in front of the Lincoln Memorial in DC, and then I just decked her ass, and then she never did it again. So Abraham Lincoln, thank you for being the site of my deliverance.
God. Yeah,
I feel like,
no.
that was like you went Super Saiyan because you looked into Lincoln's eyes, and it was a whole thing. Like I would pay somebody to animate that. Be
No,
like,
she
Lincoln
was just
giving you powers. It was great.
No, she was driving me crazy the whole trip, and I was complaining to my parents. And my parents are like, "We can't be there to stop people doing this to you. You have to take charge at some point." And then I was like, thinking about it, and then I was like, "All right, fuck this, wham!" You know.
Well, listen. At some point, like there has to be a certain, because like, you can do it at a certain age, and then there's a certain age where you cannot do that to your sibling, right? Like, because you'll always have some siblings like, I'm gonna call the police, and you're like, oh, great.
Yeah.
I mean, my sister might have stabbed our brother with a fork in high school, but he definitely deserved it.
Exactly, because you know what? A fork. If you get stabbed with a fork and you rat out, you are disowned immediately. You lose all family privileges.
My brother never would have. He was a tormentor though. I mean, he had three. He was the oldest, and then he had three little sisters. So you can only imagine, like he enjoyed tormenting us.
Yes, but he was tormented.
He was not tormented. Like, in fact, my mother still spoils this boy to this day, and we're like, Mom, take the titty out. Like, he was the tormentor of all tormenting. I was the quiet book nerd. The youngest one was just wanted to watch Disney movies all day and cartoons. And then the middle, it was him and the middle girl that used to always fight. So that's how it was. Like, it skipped over. So.
Did you just say take the titty out?
Hey,
yes!
That was one of the best.
Perfect delivery. Yeah.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Yeah. No, well, listen,
he's 34.
Yeah, listen, that is apparently.
And he lives with her. You know
what? So I learned this the other day was that what was it? A woman's first love is her father, but her last love is her son. And I was like,
gosh, what a lie.
Oh, but I'm like, that's a crazy idea. You don't think it's true? Oh, probably.
No, I don't. I don't. No. I think it all depends, and I think one is going to depend on the type of father that you had. Like if you had a present father, no, for that like. I'm gonna say my son is my last love. Ugh, no, I don't even think of my son that way. To be honest, like
no,
I love
like,
my.
Like he
maybe like unconditional.
Yeah, unconditional.
I'll take that. I'll take that. Because I don't think I could ever love like a significant other unconditionally because I don't believe in that. I think that there are conditions to loving people. You know what I mean? Like there has to be. Like you have to have. I wrote a whole op-ed about this on medium.com actually. But yeah, I mean, you have to have conditions with the love. Like it has to run out at some point. Because you can't just allow people to just like, I love you unconditionally. That means you can like treat me or do anything. That's bullcrap. I don't love anyone besides my kids unconditionally. That's it.
Yeah, no. Well, that's the thing is that's your job as a parent to love your kids unconditionally. You can listen. You can beat them. You can tell them they're stupid, but you still have to love them unconditionally. Because listen, let's be honest. Some kids need a beating, and some kids are stupid. That's a fact. But they all deserve to be loved unconditionally, right? Like that's a fair. It's reasonable, right? Like it's you know, it'd be not like I told my in-laws that if we ever have kids, and I'm like, listen, I'm the youngest of my siblings, and my wife is an only child and Asian, and I'm like, that kid is going to be a pain in everyone's ass unless we beat him. Like that's it, right? And my in-laws are like, no, you can't beat the child. I'm like, I will take pleasure in knowing that child has been beaten to the perfect degree to make sure he's a functional member of society. Okay, you must not eat too much. Not too little, but a little, you know?
I think I did more of the little poppings when they were younger, but I don't really do the beating thing. Maybe because it was so traumatic for me. Like the belt, it was like so traumatic. God, it was traumatic. I didn't beat them a lot.
Well, listen, you shouldn't.
My brother did. My brother did, and they did not work. That's why I'm kind of against beatings. I remember like like the horrors of watching him. And then I'm like, but he still turned out to be a shithead.
Yeah.
Like, he still got in all this trouble in high school. He still got put out of school. Like, every time I turned around, he was getting expelled. Like, beating him did not make him a better person.
Yeah.
So I'm like, that's why I'm like,
And that's but that's the
do
whole
we really
thing.
need to beat our kids?
You have to figure out what discipline works for each kid. Like me,
Yeah,
I'm
true.
too big. I was 15 and my dad tried to smack me and I palmed his entire chest and I was like, if you ever touch me again, I'm gonna rip your arms off. And he was like, we'll find a different way. And I'm like, that was that, but that
see now I was expecting Kali Ma Temple of
like
Doom.
This generation
I have
of
like
kids
yeah.
take their iPad. It's like they go off. It's like the scene from Step Brothers when they're like, what? When they were like, no more TV. That's what like taking a kid's iPad is like today. Or
Yeah.
no YouTube.
Yeah.
Oh my God. You're the most horrible parent ever.
Well, the one that I heard, which I was like, it's a little creative, was take their chargers away. And I was like, oh, so yeah, you can use your stuff, but time's running out. So best of luck. And you're like,
is
I
like
it's a good one, right? Because you're like,
that's a good one.
now you have
That's
there's a
a good
consequence
one.
and it's only your own fault. There's,
Oh,
what are you
Well,
gonna do?
because then there's this thing where like they are now forced to sneak around to either find a charger or like go, at school. They're like, hey, can I borrow your charger?
oh, that's
And
true
then-
too.
And then it
Listen.
becomes like a treadmill of trying to track them all down.
But
That's
realistically, then they are building skills in they have to be sneaky, that's a skill. They have to make friends, that's a skill.
Oh
They have to be
God.
resourceful, those are skills. Like, listen, there's a
Listen.
method to that madness.
I think there's levels in terms of like age. Like if you do that to like a 5-year-old, that's much more impactful than doing that to your 15-year-old. Your 15-year-old is gonna go to the corner store and buy another charger. Like that's just
Yeah.
gonna happen. But like my
Oh.
10-year-old is probably just gonna cry.
A 15-year-old that has money is a dangerous situation. I'll tell you that.
Yeah.
I'm gonna go buy a new charger. What? Oh, that's a kid that you
They
just
don't
tie up in
buy
the basement.
below. They don't care if it's a good quality charger. They'll be right at Five Below buying a $5 25-cent charger.
I
No,
think
they will. Or Target.
Yeah.
I think what made punishments less awful when I was a kid was that I would usually have either an end in sight or they would explain why.
Mm.
That's the best part.
It's kind of like a judge at the end of a trial for doing X, Y, and Z thing. I sentence you to
Yep.
gavel, like that kind of thing. So
Absolutely.
I think
You
as a
can-
parent, that's probably what I do.
That's the number one thing. You can never discipline your child without explicitly telling them why you are disciplining them, because it defeats the entire purpose of disciplining them.
Oh yeah, but that's I feel like that's the one great thing about the new way of doing things is that no, you can't just beat your kids because you beat your kids. Like, no, you need to explain. Hey, you gone fucked up. Like you did something.
Like this is
stupid
now
'cause you're
restorative
stupid.
justice. This is restorative justice now.
Well, it's understanding consequences because like I grew up with a few kids who had zero consequences, and I just beat their ass at school because they tried that shit, and I'm like, no, that's not gonna work. I'm like, no, I'll smack the shit out of you, right? Like you can't. Like this is the Thunderdome, and like there's no one, and they're like, well, I'll tell a teacher. I'm like, I'll beat the teacher up too. I don't give a shit. I'm like, I'm 6'2". What are you gonna do, right? Like. I had one teacher who was like, I'd kick your ass. And I go, bro, you're as thin as a pencil and you look like a Q-tip. I'm like, I would snap you like a twig and eat your lunch. And then I just, because that was a different existence, right? I loved before the internet. It was so good. Everyone. It was like, it had its value, right? Like there were bad people, but there was fun. There was so much fun to be had. It was one of those things.
I have a for people listening to or watching this. What's a red flag that immediately catches your attention, be it in relationships or applying to jobs, whatever? Put it down in the comments or tweet at us at Generation Dan on Twitter or Instagram. I fixed it. There's no underscore anymore. So suck on that.
I still don't even know why we had to in the first place.
Well, because when I first tried to, it was like, this isn't available. You're like, okay. So I had
Who
to like.
took it? Like,
I don't know, and then I guess I just don't have it anymore for whatever reason. Anyway, Nerra, thank you so much for coming on Generation Damn.
Yes. I enjoyed it so much.
excellent.
Where can people find you and follow you and all that good stuff?
Ooh, so Queen Talks with Nerra. You guys can find me on all streaming platforms from iHeartRadio, podcasts on Amazon, blah, 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 Spotify, all that good stuff. And you can follow me on Instagram at Queen Talks with Nerra. Simple, easy.
Fantastic.
How about you, Dino?
I'm at right here. Do you know the Genetic Marvel? I'm doing a daily series now, kind of explaining the roadblocks and mental things that I'm going through, trying to not be a fatso anymore. It's a weird journey, but like I'm learning a lot of stuff. Also, too, I'm trying to learn to do a chin up. So every day I'm posting my progress on all stuff. It's weird because I'm still fat, but at the same time, people seem to like it. I got like.
You're picking banging music too, because like every time I go see it, you have like a good soundtrack in the background there.
Well,
That's
it helps. It really helps.
good marketing.
Like,
Good marketing.
well, listen, if I can deceive people by exercise and good music, and then the face, and it's fine, right? So, jokes on them, but yeah. So just Google me. I'm everywhere. But thank you very much. Mick agrees. Great stream, guys. Thanks for watching, buddy. Really appreciate it.
You can follow me at Atlas Novak, Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, Blue Sky. Now I'm on Blue Sky at Atlas Novak, so that's a thing.
What's Blue Sky?
It's like a Twitter knockoff where you got to sign up for it and you're on like a waiting list. It's like less. What?
Threads?
You mean Threads?
No, I haven't done Threads yet because
I'm on that one too now.
Hey, so apparently Threads you can't delete without deleting Instagram altogether. So
yeah. So something to consider. But anyway, there or you can follow my YouTube channel, The Epileptic Comic, or my other podcast, Nexus at Night, which is about a trading card game called Vanguard. So awesome. So thanks everybody for listening. And what's your most noticeable red flag? Down there at us. Have a good night, everybody.
Bye.
See ya.